He's smiling. It's all your fault. You gotta keep up with the others, the other kids in the block that have a nice tree. You gotta have a tree. He's hiding. They can't play cartels though, these other kids. Yeah. You know how to play Redumber? No. One day. Yeah. I'm sure. Huh?
I was telling him to take off the mask. I don't know if he's uncomfortable.
It's okay. He's okay.
When the COVID situation was really better, more people were selecting the Ekadashi tree benches for all the community kids. There were about 8 or 9 of them. Since the beginning of COVID, they all started practicing Bhagavatam and Bhagavatam for that. So they would take turns while they sadhana, and sort of thing. They were having a wonderful time.
What about masks?
We were not wearing them, but
In summer it started very yeah.
so we stopped
I'm just concerned while we're gathered together. Even if you're uncomfortable, let me be here to be comfortable while we're together. Jaya Radha Kunjabi Hari Jaya
Password. Capital G. Capital G. U. S. U. A. R. A. R. 10. Yeah. GUSAR 10.
Divine grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki Gaur Premanande.
We are having small difficulty with this.
I should just continue, yes, I shouldn't hold.
You can continue.
Okay. Whoever's out
Chicago and the Naperville congregation connected with this discussion. And I'll assume that there are some people who are relatively new, along with the people who are more experienced. So I'll try to keep the message simple. However, the Chicago Temple, for a number of months now, has been consecutively going through chapter after chapter after chapter, starting with Canto 1, Chapter 1. And this Sunday is Canto 2, Chapter 10. It's a very philosophical chapter. And for new people, philosophy isn't so exciting, or it doesn't capture the mind so easily. So I'll try to keep it simple. But it's very high philosophy. The title of it is, the title of Chapter 10, Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. And the chapter before it is a whole chapter filled with questions. This discussion between Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. He's already heard answers to many questions, and now he has further questions. Because the format of the Bhagavatam, like much of the Puranic literature, is questions and answer format. And in this case, it's the perfect questions of Maharaj Parikshit and the perfect person, Shukadeva Goswami, to respond to his perfect questions. And in the course of all of that, Srimad-Bhagavatam unfolds. In this chapter 10, that is the answer to the question from chapter 9, we will find 4 verses that are the essential verses of the entire Srimad-Bhagavatam. So it's an important chapter, important verses. That's our focus of our subject. Stepping back even a little bit further, a bigger picture is Srimad-Bhagavatam that we have is revision, at least revision number 2. Let's go back to Canto 1. For those of you that are with the Chicago Temple, or those of you that have Srimad-Bhagavatam in your home, many devotees now do have Srimad-Bhagavatam in their home. You'll find in Canto 1 a question by the sages asking Sutta, please describe how Srimad-Bhagavatam appeared. Beginning of chapter 4. And a summary of how Srimad-Bhagavatam appeared is Vyasadeva, being Trikalagya, seeing past, present, future equally perfectly, looked into the future and he saw Kali Yuga and he knew what that meant because he's a great sage and an incarnation of the personality of Godhead. So he decided to mitigate the disturbances found in the age of Kali, to make the Vedas accessible to people in the age of Kali by writing it down for starters, because previously the Vedas were just by oral tradition. People had such intellectual acumen and memory, they could understand things and remember them perfectly just hearing them. But in Kali Yuga, people don't have that same capacity. So he wrote them down and divided the one Veda into 4, and then wrote explanatory literatures, part of which are the Puranas, the histories. And included in all of that is Srimad-Bhagavatam, or Bhagavat Purana. But Bhagavat Purana, in its original form, was these 4 verses. And something happened after compiling all of the Vedas. Narada visited him and asked him, "Why are you looking despondent?" He said, "Well, I don't know, but I think you know." And the answer given was, while compiling the Vedas, fantastic job, you get a 4.0 in your report card, but you did not sufficiently directly glorify the personality of Godhead. Too much emphasis, all of what you wrote is okay, on processes of sacrifice for achieving worldly objectives, and that's in the Vedas. You didn't mess up, but that's not the essence. Even the purpose of those things and the purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. So he gave him 2 instructions: sit in trance and samadhi, and that which you realize while in trance or samadhi, then expand this Bhagavat Purana from those 4 verses to, now we have 18,000 verses. And he taught those verses to Shukadev, and Shukadev Goswami spoke them. It was the first time the Bhagavatam was spoken in the form that Vyasadeva had given to his son. So these 4 verses it's called Chatur Shloki, or Prabhupada would call it the nutshell verses. Nice language, nutshell. Inside the shell is the nut, the real essence of all of the Vedas and the essence of all the Bhagavatam, because the Bhagavatam is said to be a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, which is the essence of the Vedas, or summation of all the Vedas. And Bhagavatam is its commentary, and these 4 verses contain the essence of that. So very important verses. Now let's go back to the beginning of the chapter 10, where Shukadev Goswami, in response to Parikshit Maharaj's questions, speaks wonderful things about the importance of hearing, and the importance of hearing from the proper source, and what results if you don't, and what results if you do, kind of setting the scene. And then the next set of verses describes Lord Brahma. To answer his questions, he refers to a history of Lord Brahma being born. Do you know who is Lord Brahma? Yeah? Tell me what you know about Lord Brahma. He had 4 heads. He created the universe. It was dark when he came out of the lotus. And then let's hear I'll say the rest, because what you said is right in Canto 2, Chapter 10. You've been reading Prabhupada's books. Not yet. Just hearing from Mom and Dad. Okay. He appeared on top of a lotus that came from the stem from the body of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and he was instantly wanting to know who was he, where did he come from, he somehow had an inspiration, because he was empowered to have this inspiration to create a universe, but he didn't know exactly what a universe looked like, because it's like the beginning of creation, and how to do it, and so forth. So he was searching for the person who placed him on this lotus, and he couldn't find, but then he heard the syllables tapa, tapa, twice. And so that can mean a lot of things, but he knew what it meant because he's very intelligent, and he underwent tapa, austerity. You know, austerity? Like, you know, brush your teeth and clean your room and go to school and things like that. Austerity. So he did his austerity specifically of chanting mantra. He heard sacred sound. He knew what it was, and he chanted his mantra, sacred sound, his Gayatri mantra, for 1,000, according to the Bhagavatam, 1,000 celestial years. Now, there weren't demigods yet. Celestial years means the duration of time in the heavenly kingdom, and there's no heavenly kingdom. There's no demigods. There's only darkness, right? Darkness in all directions. So, but 1,000 celestial years duration of time, he chanted his mantra, did his tapa, and lo and behold, in that space of total darkness, the personality of Godhead appeared before him, the Lord of Vaikuntha. It's very specific, a four-armed form, surrounded by all of his potencies. The language is used, the yoga pith, which means that, you know, the center of his abode. And he was surrounded by his associates, the personified Vedas. There weren't the Vedas manifest yet, but they were personified in their spiritual forms, and all in his potencies are also in their spiritual form personified. Very important and very interesting. And it was luminous, because the spiritual world is self-luminous. And Brahma was very happy, and Lord Vishnu was radiatingly happy. And he stood, and he came before Brahma and extended his hand, like friendship. And from this, we understand that particular Brahma that's described in chapter 10 has a relationship with Krishna of friendship, like Arjuna has a relationship of friendship, Sakya, Rasa. In any case, the Lord greeted him and let him know that you please me very much by your non-deceptive penance. Non-deceptive meaning he didn't do something to get something. He was just wanting purification and wanting to know himself, who he was, and the Lord, and his service to the Lord, and so forth. He had no other motive, non-deceptive penance. So you please me very much, and it's by this penance that I create, it's by my penance that I do the things that I do. That is to say, he does through the agency of those who have such qualification. He empowers them to do what they do. And so he then indicates to Brahma, you just ask whatever it is that you like, and it's yours. That's pretty impressive. Here's a blank check, and just put in the number you want. Whatever you want, however much you want. So the Brahma is very intelligent. He didn't immediately fill in the blank check, but he started speaking about the service that he had to perform, because building a universe, you have to have a lot of instructions before you just start building a universe, even if you're intelligent. So it's nice, those of you that have Bhagavatam sets in your home, you can go over that section. It's in the late 20s, chapter 10, texts 25 or so through verse 30, 33. What Brahma asked when the Lord said, you can have whatever you like. He is a very elevated personality. He doesn't ask for small things. He wants that which a perfected soul wants. And then the personality of Godhead speaks these 4 verses. And those of you that like to read Prabhupada's books, you'll find them starting with text 33. So 2:10:33, 34, 35, 36. 2:10:33. I'm going to read them because I have a copy of Canto 10 right in my hand here. And I'll read the verse and we'll just very quickly cover what could very easily take a week-long seminar to explain. In different times I've explained, or a month-long seminar to explain, because it's very detailed, very, very long purports. So this is just a bird's eye view, or 30,000 feet view of these important verses. And the first of the I'll say in a summary way what these verses are explaining. One of the essential points is what we know in the Hare Krishna movement as the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Of course, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are the teachings of Srimad-Bhagavatam and vice versa. But the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are depicted as achintya, beda, abeda, tattva. Tattva means truth or doctrine. The doctrine of there's a inconceivable simultaneous oneness and difference of all things with the source of all things. You two back here, are you familiar with that terminology? Achintya, beta, beta, tattva? Yes? No? No. Achintya, you understand the meaning. Achintya means inconceivable. That which the mind cannot grasp. It's beyond go and go and go and go and go and go, and the mind, it's still beyond the mind. It's not graspable by the mind, inconceivable. It's in another dimension, beyond the material mind. That's transcendental realm. So inconceivable by the mind is something that's simultaneously opposite. Like, 1 or 0. Everyone that knows about computers knows that. It's a binary processor, and it's either a 1 or a 0. It can't be both a 1 and a 0. Like, light switch is a binary processor. It's on or it's off. And there isn't an on and off at the same time. That which is simultaneously on and off, or a 1 and a 0, or something and its opposite simultaneously, is inconceivable. That's the inconceivableness of the absolute truth, where everything is one with and different from. One with in the sense that it's an emanation from, and different in the sense that it's not the source of emanation is emanated. Like sunlight and the sun planet. The sun planet is luminous, and the sunlight is luminous. So they're one. There isn't a difference between the sunlight and the sun. And there is a difference because one is the source and the other is emanated from the source. So all things, similarly, with that understanding, similarly, all things have a oneness relationship with the source of everything and a difference between that which is emanated and the source of emanation. There's a oneness and difference simultaneously. That's what the Bhagavatam is teaching. It's twice within these 4 essential verses. And that's the first verse, and it's in one of the other subsequent verses. Another verse says, let's just go through one by one. The Sanskrit aham evasam eva agre is how it begins. The Sanskrit. It says, just rather than read it, before the creation, I alone exist. This is Vishnu speaking directly to Brahma. Before the creation, there isn't a creation yet. Well, he's the first created being, although there isn't a creation that he has created. I alone exist. During the cosmic manifestation, I alone exist. And after cosmic annihilation, I alone exist. That's the oneness. And there's a difference. That the Krishna, everything that exists isn't the source of everything. He is the source of everything, and so there's a distinction between the source of everything and everything that he's the source of. But it exists within him, and he extends it, and he withdraws it. Now there's another Vaishnava teaching, I don't want to go too far afield, but the teachings of the Sri Sampradaya, or specifically Ramanujacharya, goes like this. You ready? Okay. There's a Sanskrit word, Vishishta, which means attributes. So, Vishishta Advaita says there are attributes within the Supreme that are sometimes manifest and sometimes not manifest or withdrawn, but there's an Advaita, a non-dual relationship between those attributes and the possessor of the attributes. You got it? Attributes withdrawn, attributes extended, attributes withdrawn. There's a oneness of those attributes with the source of those attributes, whether they're manifest or not manifest and withdrawn. That's Ramanujacharya's teachings. Lord Chaitanya's teachings differ. There is the oneness, and simultaneously there's a difference. So let's go on to the next verse. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. It's Maya. Know it as my illusory energy. That reflection which appears to be in the darkness. So, except for this young man here, we all have driven cars. And when you're driving a car at night, you don't have to look over your shoulder. You can look in the mirror up above the dashboard, or over here on the left by the side of the driver, and you can see if there's a car behind you because there's a reflection of the headlights in the mirror. But it's not like there's headlights in the mirror. It's a reflection of the headlights in the mirror, or the mirror over here on the left. But it tells you there's a car behind you, and that they have the lights on. Similarly, thinking that those things have their own existence independent from Krishna, like there's actually headlights in the, not reflection of the headlights, but there's actually headlights in the mirror. That's Maya. It's illusion. It's reflection. Okay, reflection. But reflection is something is projecting reflection, and there's a reflecting surface showing the reflection. But illusion is to not see that there's a reflection, that there's something that's creating the reflection, the actual object. So if you think that there's some object, so like, here's a house, it's an object, or here's a body, and if it doesn't have a connection with the source of emanation, it just exists. And what does it exist for? Well, for me to enjoy the house, or me to enjoy this body, or me to enjoy some object of the senses, or something. It doesn't have a connection with Krishna. It's just meant for enjoyment. That's Maya. Very simple definition of Maya, or illusion. Say it again. Just thinking, having the concept in the mind that something exists without a connection with its source of emanation. So the first verse is, everything that emanates has this relationship of non-difference, and if you think that it doesn't, that's Maya. And that's the first two verses. Now we're going to go to the third verse. And guess what the third verse is speaking about? You guessed it, it's speaking about devotional service. Oh, Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos, and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time, I'm outside of everything created. Double talk, right? And how is that connected with devotional service as well? So here's the house and here's the body, and and here's some object that we see around us. There's a microphone. So that's an object. So within everything, that which comprises the house or the body or the microphone, there's elements. And those elements have come from the source. Those elements have come from Krishna. So therefore, very important, this is the non-difference aspect. Therefore, we can utilize this microphone or the body or the house in Krishna's service because it's connected to Krishna. Like just today, I got a question from some devotees that are studying Bhagavad Gita in China. Kind of like a group leader teaching Bhagavad Gita to their group. So the group wanted to know, I think the leader knew, but they wanted me to answer. In the Bhagavatam, we find that Maharaj Parikshit, when he spared the personality Kali, he said, you can reside where there's hoarding of gold. So hoarding of gold or gold is a residing place for Kali. Then over here it says when Maharaj Yudhisthira was going to do the Rajasuya sacrifice, they needed piles of gold. So what's going on here? Was he influenced by Kali, or if he wasn't influenced by Kali, how do we understand? If Kali takes shelter, where there's hoarding of gold. Well, there wasn't hoarding of gold, it was utilizing that which is Krishna's in Krishna's service. Like the house, or the body, or the microphone. When used in the service of the Supreme Lord, the Maya feature is driven away, or dissipated, or gone, and the presence of Krishna aspect is made manifest, or is brought to your consciousness instead of seeing it as an object for enjoyment. So the elements are from Krishna, but Krishna's personal existence is not per se within his energy. Prabhupada gives this example. It's a really easy one. Supposing there's an industrialist, and he owns a factory, and there are lots of workers in the factory. And he's off on the golf course, putting around in the golf course. But whatever's going on in the factory is by his energy. He may not be standing there watching everybody doing everything, but it's his energy, his intelligence, his resource, his plan, his people carrying out his whatever he wants. The manager is doing what the owner and the industrialist want while he's off putting around on the golf course. He's remote, but his energies are working. So doesn't have to be in the factory, using that worldly example. So Krishna is not personally present as he is in Goloka Vrindavan. He's personally present, enjoying with his eternal associates, who are his expansions. of spiritual expansions. And in this material realm, there's elements. Remember, this is chapter 10, and earlier we heard that Brahma saw the Supreme Lord with all of his energies. They're personified. But this microphone doesn't look like a personified microphone. Some little guy going, something. It's impersonal. But behind the impersonal is person. So Krishna is there through his energy, but he's maintaining his personal presence and his potencies in the spiritual realm. Simultaneous, one and different. So since there is this relationship of the microphone and the body and the house with the source of emanation, that's the justification for bhakti. We can use it in Krishna's service because it's his and it's meant for him. And all we have to do is use our free will properly and say, let me offer it to him instead of let me use it for my own pleasures. The microphone or the body or the house or anything. Similarly, I myself exist within everything created and at the same time am outside of everything. Now, does that sound familiar, those of you that like to read Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9? Sounds familiar? It's the same message. And what this nutshell verse does is expanded in other sections of the Bhagavatam, but this is in essence. Krishna is personally existing as Paramatma, his expansion, but his Bhagavan feature is not there. His Bhagavan feature is in Krishna Loka doing what he does in Krishna Loka. But his expansion is present everywhere. And that's elaborated upon in other parts of the Srimad-Bhagavatam very nicely. And the last, we're almost done. This is Lord Vishnu speaking to Brahma. Etavad eva jigyasyam. Jigyasa means inquisitive, right? Atata Brahma Jigyasa. Vedanta Sutra. Jigyasa is asking questions or being inquisitive. Translation. A person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, most certainly should be must, isn't it? Here it's written most, but must certainly search for it up to this. In all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. So that's triple. Must certainly search for it up to this. All time, all space, and directly and indirectly. So directly is aspiring to see Krishna. Something that came, this is chapter 10, something that came earlier, Vishnu said to Brahma, what is it that you desire? And then he went on and said, you've achieved the best of all things that one can desire. What's that? You've seen me. So that's the directly. That's the directly. Just like in our the topics that we're discussing during this visit to Naperville is Brahma's Prayers, chapter 14. And he says the same thing. My intelligence is what it is. I've understood the Vedas, but now I have the good fortune, by your mercy, to see you directly. Same as this chapter. It's the greatest fortune. It's great mercy. So seeing him directly and searching for him directly, Doesn't mean with these eyes or this mind, but searching with the inquisitive spirit from the soul to the Supreme. That eagerness, or keeping it a little bit softer, the hankering for that connection with the personality of Godhead is the essence of bhakti. The behaviors of bhakti are not the essence of bhakti. It's the aspiration and hankering to be connected with the Supreme. Directly, and then indirectly. What does indirectly mean? It indirectly means like, seeing the microphone as being connected to the source of everything, Krishna, and therefore using it in Krishna's service. That's the indirectly. Or like this example that devotees from China asked, using gold for a sacrifice for Rajasuya Yagya. It's for the pleasure of Krishna. So we carry out our duties in this world. We don't neglect them, knowing that they're meant as an offering to Krishna. So that's an indirect, and the direct is I'm confident that Krishna is accepting that offering while I'm going to the office or going to school and doing my homework or brushing my teeth or cleaning my room or, playing cartels or doing things that we do in life. And you're offering that to Krishna and hankering all the while, searching directly for that Krishna connection. It's in the purport. So these purports they're very long and they're very fantastic. And the chapter isn't over here, but the topic for this evening's discussion was these 4 essential verses, and the rest of the Bhagavatam is expanding these 4 essential verses. So if you can understand these 4 essential verses, you've understood the Bhagavatam. And then when you read the rest of the Bhagavatam with your understanding of these 4 essential verses, you'll go, wow, the Bhagavatam is really beautiful. And that's what Srimad means. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. Eloquent and elegant and delightful and heart-moving, inspirational, all for the purpose of connecting you with the source of everything, as these Chatur Sloki verses are meant to do. It's called Sambandha, meaning relationship between all things and the source, and then acting in that relationship through the medium of devotional service, and then realizing the conclusion, the stage of love, or being fixed in one's relationship through the medium of service with the personality of Godhead. That's Srimad-Bhagavatam in a nutshell, or these 4 essential verses called answers inciting the Lord's version. Now, I don't know if this has been an ideal class for new people, because commonly, when we conduct Sunday programs, we're wanting to encourage new people to get, a preliminary understanding, a basic understanding of bhakti. And this is chapter 10 of Canto 2, and it's a very elevated subject. So I hope I didn't lose people, because it's a little high. But the essence, understanding the connection of all things with Krishna, understanding of not seeing that as Maya, understanding Krishna's simultaneous presence within everything. At the same time, he has his own pastimes and his abode in Krishna Loka. Simultaneously, these are going on. And searching for this with one's heart and inquisitive spirit, directly and indirectly, in all times and in all circumstances, that's ideal. That's the nutshell verses. So let's see if there's some discussion. We have a portable microphone. So those of you that are with us in the room, if you want to ask a question, you can, or participate in some discussion. And then we'll go to online. Is it right here?
There's also Zoom participants.
Okay, so let's do just this. And then we'll go to Zoom.
Krishna Maharaj, so it was nice, like, means, we heard like many times, like we wanted to use everything in the service of Krishna, like all activities, what we do should be in a consciousness of serving
Good.
or for Krishna.
Yes.
So I was just wondering on a practical level, like how do we develop that consciousness, like at least for me. So sometimes like when we're in more happiness or like in high, so try to get deviate from the activities, like means not think too much, like means you achieved something or you're happy because something happened good. In those situations, a lot of times the Krishna thing doesn't come, like maybe it's because Krishna's will or whatever it is, like so what I was saying, like when I'm in happiness, like some of my activities, like means chanting or all those things, like might not be in the same level of concentration or what we call it.
I got it.
So I was wondering, like, how do we develop that consciousness? Like, always think that, okay, I'm working in office. Like, I hear, like, means when you're working, that okay, you can think that okay, you're working for Krishna, you're making money, and then you're using the service of Krishna. Like, means
That's one. That's one way. That's one way of thinking.
But the thing is that applying that in practical way, I always had trouble thinking that okay, I'm doing this for Krishna kind of thing. Like always it comes like
I got the picture.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I was just wondering, like in a practical
You've given two examples. One is happiness, and the other is labor or office work. And how to maintain the essence of the question is how to stay fixed in a do it for Krishna mood and not be distracted by the circumstances this way, that way.
Yes.
Okay. Our bhakti process is meant to achieve exactly that. Say the reverse. The bhakti process is anukulyena Krishna anushilanam. That is, whatever it is that we do, it's meant for Krishna's enjoyment. So your question is, how do I develop that consciousness? Whether this application, that application, how do I develop that consciousness? So the sadhana is for that purpose. Just the other evening, there was another question, very similar. It was from a housewife. You know, I do my duties. I'm the mother, and I do my housework, and I do this, I do my chanting. But it's somewhat external, and I'm not really feeling that Krishna connection so much. So it's the context is different, similar question.
It's the same, yeah. Like
Okay.
things, but yeah.
So, bhakti, sadhana bhakti is a process, and it may start with paying attention to the externals. It maybe is something like, motor skills of driving a car or riding a bicycle or operating a computer, and it takes a while to get a sense of how to do that. But once the motor skills are developed, how are you going to use the driving the car, riding the bicycle, or using the computer? What's the purpose? So something that I've been saying of late is when you put your hand in your bead bag in the morning, ask yourself the question, why am I doing this? It's the sankalpa, the intention behind the activity. And if you don't ask that question, you're not likely to get an answer. you're likely to do mechanically. And then when things are going on in the office, or things are going on that where you're having some success or happiness, whatever it is, it doesn't stay because you're not connected to, there's no shelter in Krishna. The shelter is in service. Because that's who we are. We're parts of the whole. The part is meant to serve the whole. We've all heard Prabhupada's lectures say this dozens and so many times. Like a machine part, it's meaningless if you just find a nut or a bolt or a screw out there on the sidewalk. But if it's needed to make a machine work, you'll pay a lot to get that nut or bolt or screw. Its worth is being connected to the machine. So similarly, our business is to be connected to the whole. And what's that connection? Service. The part serves the whole. When we're in the mood, this is this sankalpa. I put my hand in my bead bag, and something says, the expression can be different, and it can mature and so forth, but the intention is to be connected to Krishna. The intention is to take shelter of Krishna. The intention is to be pleasing to Krishna. Think of Krishna's pleasure, not me and mine. So the intention behind starting with chanting and hearing, Shravanam, Kirtanam, that's the best way to get to the next level. In fact, the next level after that, and the next level after that. Because at every stage, the intention to move from where I am to the next position is needed, and well defined, and staying with it. It's as Prabhupada writes in the introduction to Nectar Devotion, bhakti is a sort of cultivation, which is a paraphrase of Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam from Rupa Goswami. Bhakti is a sort of cultivation. So you're at a stage that's here, and you want to be up there. So you have to cultivate within a workable range. You're not going to quickly, like a quantum leap to Shuddha Bhakti, but work towards something that's toward that Shuddha Bhakti by something that's, as I'm putting my hand in my bead bag and chanting, what's the intention, and stay with it. Stay with the intention. And then your bhakti will be vitalized. So where there is intention, that's where attention goes. Right? So go back to the root, that's intention, and then your attention will go. And then when your attention is with the name, or the sound, because that's what Brahma did, the sound, the mantra that he received. He focused on that mantra that he received. And he went beyond mechanical. He went all the way. And so that's our method. Our method is sound, Shravanam. And then, based upon Shravanam, proper Kirtanam, and proper Kirtanam and Shravanam means Smaranam. There's the what you want, the remembering. When you're in a happy position, or you're in the workplace, or you're whatever's going on, you're with your son, and he's being playful and a little mischievous, and sometimes maybe naughty. He's smiling. So whenever's going on, you can have the intention, or the sense of purpose right there, because you cultivated it with your hearing and chanting, and then the smaranam is there.
So
when you said that
Here comes the microphone for our online people.
So when we said like sankalpa means like, okay, I want to
It's intention.
intention like to a stage, like means maybe for 3-4 months or something, like means we would think about the same intention that you want to reach to a certain level, or how that, or like means I want, if I say that like intention of like do at least one round of
It can be small,
chanting.
it can be medium, you can revisit it, you can redefine it, all that. Stay with the intention and your attention will be properly directed. So you can take that as an intention. There's no limit to, how you can describe it, but stay with it. Redefine it if needed, but stay with it.
Yeah, but so at least until you feel comfortable with that particular one sankalpa, whatever we made.
You can adjust it.
Okay.
You can adjust it. My point is this. Bhakti means, Prabhupada Goswami, by the definition of bhakti, bhakti means anukalyena Krishna anushilanam. That's what it means. It's not some other things, not jnana and karma. It's anukalyena Krishna anushilanam. So that's Krishna is to be pleased. And I'm following in the footsteps, anushilanam. I'm following in the footsteps of perfected souls so that I can get a sense of what is pleasing to Krishna. Anukulyena, anukul is accepting. So anyway, without breaking down the Sanskrit, how you personally, or I personally, or your wife, or anybody, one of us here, want to articulate what that is for you, or for any one of us, it can be all kinds of things. The essence is that Krishna is to be pleased. And it's good to give definition to what does it mean to please Krishna, so be specific. But that's how your bhakti muscle gets exercised and you get strong, so you're in this remembrance of Krishna all the time. And yes, stay with it. Refine it, redefine it, revise it, but stay with it. The tendency is, 3-4 days, and then we get distracted. That's why I'm emphasizing stay with it.
Okay, so like
That's the principle of bhakti. Krishna is to be pleased. Not you're to be pleased. Krishna is to be pleased.
yeah. Yes, Maharaj, I kind of understood. So we define the sankalpa, but down the line, if we think that whatever we are doing, so we can redefine the
Yes.
sankalpa. And
Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. We have some Zoom people. Let's Zoom with the Zoom people. You've got something, but we'll come back to you. We're going to Zoom for a bit. Zoom.
Param Karana Prabhu, Ishadnandan Prabhu, want to
Yeah, if you're unmuted, Paramakarna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So thank you for bringing this class, Maharaj. And I have a lot of doubt about this 4 verses. So my first, it could be a lengthy question. I'll break my question in the parts. So Brahmaji, forget this 4 verse. So forget this creative function or creative impetus knowledge at both the destruction or both. There's a partial destruction and there is a complete destruction. So does Brahmaji forget this knowledge at both the times, or only when there is a complete destruction?
I want to remind you, Parma Karuna, that we have new people. So your questions are not even 101, they're not 201, they're 301 usually. So please be mindful of the 101 people while you're presenting your questions. because I'm going to be responsive with that in mind. Now, the answer is, it's the forgetfulness is at the beginning, because each day that Brahma wakes up in the morning and he has to recreate some portion of the universe that was covered by the partial flood and inundation of the universe. It's not that he forgets each day, but he does sadhana and he reestablishes the portion of the universe that was dissolved. What we're hearing in Canto 2, Chapter 10, my understanding is, this is at the dawn of creation, not at the beginning of each Brahma's day.
Sure. And I will ask more questions in my email because it will be too lengthy for everyone. Sorry for that.
That sounds good. Sounds really good. Thank you. So our young member here, he wants to ask a question. Just toss it. You're on.
How much is 1,000 celestial years on Earth?
Okay, that's a nice question. 1,000 celestial years on Earth. You have to get your computer out, or your calculator. On Earth, 6 months equals 1 day. And then there's night, that's another 6 months. So are you with me? That means, don't pay attention over here. Your mom's going to write it down, but you listen. Our 1 year is their day and night. Their 24 hours is our 1 year. There's day and there's night. So day is 6 months, night is 6 months. That's 1 year. 1 year here is 1 day and night in the celestial realm. You with me? Okay. So that's 1 day. And then there's so many days per year, let's say 365 times, that's not even 1 year. That's 1 day, that's 1 year, then 1,000 of those years. So however many that is, whatever the math comes out, that's how long it is on Earth planet. But remember, there isn't even planets yet. When this happens, and he's doing his austerities, there's no earthly planet, there's no celestial planets. It's just, as you said at the beginning, it's just darkness. Nothing. But for that long. Because when there is creation, there is a length. It can be calculated. Got it? Okay, good.
Here's a second question.
Yeah, go ahead. Second question.
Does Brahma have materials to build a universe?
Did he do what to build the universe?
Does he have materials?
Oh, yeah. He's got all the ingredients. Not only he has ingredients, he has a blueprint. You know what a blueprint is? Okay, he's got a blueprint. That's called the universal form. That's the blueprint. He's got to build the universe like that one. And he has the ingredients. He has the plan. He has the creative potency. That's given to him by Vishnu also. And not only that, he's got self-realization. He's like, he knows where the train is going. When he gets on the train, he already knows, because he knows who he is. And then the Lord says, thank you very much. Get to it. Build the universe. He puts it together. Okay? Okay.
And I have another one. So can we worship anything if Krishna is in everything?
Can we worship anything since Krishna is in everything? That's your question? The fact that Krishna is within everything doesn't mean that everything is worshipable. It means that it has a connection with Krishna, and we can use everything in service to Krishna in the form of worshiping him. But we worship Krishna, not things. We use things for worship. So like you're holding a microphone in your hand. We don't worship the microphone. We use the microphone in service to the worshipable Krishna. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Mom has something?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It's really nice to hear from you why we have to see everything in Krishna, in terms of Krishna, because when we are small, we grew up.
Mask, so I can hear you better. Just at least while you ask your question.
So when we are growing up, my mom, whatever we get into the house, she used to do something like aarti, like TV. If we get a TV, she used to put
sanctify it.
So it's like, why that? We used to ask her, but now I have an answer. So I'm so happy for the answer, Prabhu Maharaj. So the next one is Brahma. He was, is he not anxious? He was in the middle of darkness.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was spooky.
But how come he is like that for several thousands of years?
Well, he has enormous capacity for being patient and tolerant and perseverant. That's part of his qualification to be Brahma. Say it negatively. Someone that doesn't have that qualification can't be Brahma. To be Brahma, you have to have all those qualifications. So he wanted to know, where does voice come from, this tapa voice? He couldn't see. So he just shrugged his shoulders and said, okay, I'll get to see when the time is right. I'll just do what the instructions said. He knew what to do. He received not just tapa, but he received mantra. And then he did his mantra. Now, we're not like that. We have to have this and that and the other thing and the other thing and the other thing, and woo, 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 somebody didn't speak nicely to me, and we have all those things going on because we're not so qualified. Brahma is super qualified.
Thank you, Maharaj. And I have one more question. It's ringing in my mind, whenever you took that Brahma's prayers, it is I could not ask in between all of the other devotees, there are so many questions, but I have a small question, Maharaj. When we, it's been so long, a doubt in my brain, how to take decisions.
How to take decisions.
So,
small ones or big ones or any decision?
Any decision. So I think I got a small idea, we take decisions through emotion, but we should take through practicals. So how I can decide what is practical and what is emotional? Whereas Arjuna, he was he has always Krishna in the back.
Yeah.
So he's emotional, but he has Krishna back of him and left giving him, you're doing wrong. It is emotion. So for us, who will guide us, saying that, oh, you're being emotion. No.
This is a nice question. I understand your question. Sometimes I don't understand people's questions, but I understand your question. What guides decisions is intelligence. Now, Krishna is providing intelligence to Arjuna. He's right by his side, as you pointed out. And we don't have Krishna by our side to point out, turn left or turn right, or make a decision this way, that way. So where do you get intelligence from? And Krishna gives the answer. Dadami bodhi yogam tam yena mam bhupiyanti te. You know that verse? But so the first part is unto those who Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Unto those persons, dadami buddhi yogam tam. And so, what can you do when you have to make decisions is the question. You do the first part, and then you get the second part. So I'm a small person, and I have to make small, medium, and sometimes large decisions. And I'm requiring intelligence. Krishna, let me engage, not just please give me the answers to these questions so I can make best decisions. That's good. But let me qualify myself to have you direct my intelligence to make wise decisions in small, medium, and large things. That's the Tesham Satata. Tesham means unto those who. Satata Yuktanam. Always engaged. Satata Yuktanam. Bhajatam. Bhaj. Look in the last verse of chapter 6 Bhagavad Gita purport. Last verse, chapter 6 Bhagavad Gita purport. And you'll find the meaning of bhaj. Bhaj, B-H-A-J, Prabhupada writes, is the dhatu, or the root of bhakti. And it means, bhaj means, practical engagement of senses with sense objects. So how to decision make, how should I engage my senses with sense objects, or this circumstance, or whatever it is, that small, medium, large decisions. Should I get these carrots or those carrots, or whatever it is that you're having to make a decision about when you go in the marketplace, or whatever the things are that's going on. You cultivate bhaj or bhakti. That is, your husband just got a lesson on it. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilam. Krishna is to be pleased. Now you're looking at the carrots in the grocery or the marketplace. I don't know which carrots are better. So maybe I should do a little, research to find out which carrots are better. Not just those look, so you educate yourself in ways that are what's pleasing to Krishna, what's going to be best for the welfare of those who I'm serving, my family members, so you stay fixed in the principle that Krishna is to be pleased, and intelligence will be given to you. Bhajatam priti, you know the meaning, priti, purvakam, all the time. You cultivate the all the time mood of Krishna is to be pleased, and Krishna will give you the intelligence. So you want the intelligence, place your attention, that's the sankalpa, your intention to please Krishna. That becomes intention, and Krishna will give the intelligence. Now, minimally, until that lovely day comes that you're fixed in devotion to Krishna, you have Guru Sadhu Shastra. And those serve as guidelines. Like when Brahma was born, there wasn't any light. There was no sun, there's no moon, there's no electricity, there's no lamps, there's darkness. But he knew what to do because he heard tapa. So he was very intelligent. We're not so intelligent like him. We're not so qualified like him. So we have the light, the lamp, jnana dipena, of transcendental knowledge. We have Bhagavad Gita. So go there. And then there's Prabhupada giving his Bhaktivedanta purport. So that will help us, at least in principle, get directions where to go. You read carefully Bhagavad Gita, you'll find lots of directions where to go. Maybe not which carrots to buy in the marketplace, but how to make decisions directionally so that it's pleasing to Krishna. If that's your intention inside, you'll get stronger bhakti and stronger intelligence. And if your intention is to please Krishna, and you start going in the wrong direction, Krishna will bonk you in the head and, redirect you. Excuse me. You're heading in the wrong direction. Something he'll prompt.
That is good, Maharaj. Like you give some faith, like I'm not going for wrong direction.
Yeah, Krishna will accept your intention to please him, and if you're heading in the wrong direction, he'll recorrect your direction, because you're submissive to direction coming from Krishna, intelligence coming from Krishna, what to do. It's a position of helplessness, but it's not hopelessness. It's the position of dependency. That's not bad. It's very wholesome. We're dependent upon Krishna for intelligence. And Guru Sadhu Shastra provide it as well. How are we doing?
There are questions online.
Let's go online. And we'll do some online, and if those of you in the back there, if you have something, you can speak up.
Raghava Chaitanya Prabhu was asking, he's from Houston.
Yes.
Forgive my ignorance, Guru Maharaj. In regards to Kali Purusha being told to reside in gold by Parshit Maharaj, happened after Aswamedh Yajna by Yudhishthira, apart from pleasing Krishna.
Yes.
Is my understanding correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then I think only one more question we have. Shrida Prabhu from Singapore.
Yeah.
Sometimes we hear description that demons steal away Vedic knowledge away from Lord Brahma.
Yes.
And Krishna comes as a fish incarnation. What does it mean by stealing of Vedas? Because Vedas are actually Shruti, hearing,
Yes.
form, not yet in the written form.
Yes.
Could I know how we understand this?
Well, even before Matsya, there's Madhusudana, where Madhu and Kaitapa stole the Vedas from Brahma. So what was the form of the Vedas that Madhu and Kaitapa stole from Brahma? Now, it wasn't a book, because there was just, it's the very dawn of creation. There are no books then. It's sound. And, how they captured that sound and what they plan to do with it. And what they plan is bad stuff. That's what demons do. They do bad stuff with knowledge. So the question that's being asked, as far as I can understand, is in what form were the Vedas when they stole it? It was in sound form. Now, subtle existence can understand better what sound form is than we can. We understand physical form, not sound form. But sound also has form, and subtle beings have the capacity to take subtle form and steal it.
Amara Mata was asking, why was it dark when Garbhodaksha Vishnu was present and Lord Brahma came from lotus of his navel? I mean, wasn't it supposed to be very illuminated due to Lord's presence?
That's a nice question. I don't have an answer. I mean, it came up before. It's not only Garbhodaksha Vishnu, but Anantashesha has jewels on his head. And those jewels are luminous. So why was it darkness in all directions? The jewels on Anantashesha's head and Garbhodaksha Vishnu, he's effulgent. I don't have an answer. Maybe that maybe so many maybes. It didn't extend throughout the whole universe. It was around them. It was luminous, but not where Brahma was, up on the top of that stem. Because the stem, this lotus, is at the very, very top of the universe. That's a lot of distance between where Garbhodaksha Vishnu is and the top of the universe.
And this question is from Anu Mataji from Nepal. Hare Krishna Maharaj, does Super Soul exist in inanimate objects just as he exists in a living entity, or is it that there is energy of the Supreme Lord in inanimate objects?
Paramatma exists simultaneously in souls, which are everywhere, and within atoms, which are everywhere. So Supersoul exists within atoms of matter, which are everywhere.
And I see a question from Tarani Radha Mataji. I think can go for tomorrow morning class.
Okay.
I think that's it.
How about you two, back behind you?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have two quick questions, I guess. So one is about the universal form. We hear different description by Brahma to Narada in second canto and third canto by Maitreya to Vidura. So, I mean, is it? I'm sure there could be more descriptions.
Oh,
also.
there's many more. We discussed this in our morning class. So, what's your question?
So, my question is it, I mean, because so vast, that's why, I mean, part of it is explained in this here and part of it is explained there, or?
That's one reason, but there's another reason, as far as I understand it, and the other reason is there are different perspectives on the same thing. We gave the example, the elephant example, the ear, the trunk, the leg, the belly, the tail. There are different aspects of the same thing. So you could describe the universal form, this aspect, that aspect, there's different aspects. Or maybe a better explanation is when Krishna entered into the wrestling arena of Kamsa, that celebrated verse that says these 11 different people saw him 11 different ways. But it's the same Krishna entering into the wrestling arena. They just saw him differently. So similarly, the descriptions of the universal form are not, cookie cutter the same. There is some variety in the descriptions of the same thing.
My second question, Maharaj. So what time Vyasadeva gave the Bhagavatam to Sukadeva Goswami? I mean, I remember he runs away immediately after taking birth. When he was in the womb, he will hear, or?
You want to know when did Shukadev hear?
Yeah.
After. What happened is he left the womb, he went into the forest. Vyasadeva sent disciples to find him, and the way to find him, because they didn't know what he looked like, was reciting some verses, celebrated verses. One of those celebrated verses, it is said by our acharyas, there's nothing in scripture that confirms which ones, but one of them is by Uddhava saying, what better master is there than Krishna, who gave Putana the position of mother or nurse in the spiritual world, and although she was trying to kill him, what better master is there than this? So some verses, they went into the forest, and Sukadeva, hearing them, his heart moved from impersonal to wanting to learn more. So they lured him back to Vyas to hear more, because those verses came from Vyas. And then he sat at the feet of Vyas and studied Bhagavatam in its fullness, and then later left and spoke it.
So this happened after
Yes.
Vyasadeva met Narada Muni also.
Oh yeah. Yes. Anything? That's a no, or?
No, Maharaj.
Okay, fine. Okay. We're missing Vangsidhari. Are we ready to wrap up? We're finished. Okay.
There is one question from Sanchari Mataji.
Okay.
Sanchari Mataji is asking, also there is a question from Amara Mataji. I'll go with Sanchari Mataji. Just a clarification. Lord Brahma stole the cowhead boys and hid them for 1 earthly year. To clarify, that 1 year is just 1 day or 12 hours of Lord Brahma's time.
No, it's a moment of Brahma's time.
Also,
That is to say, Brahma's time is not celestial years. Brahma is in another relative time than the heavenly planets. This information he gave to this nice devotee here about the duration of 1 year here is 6 months there, and a day and night there is so. Just do it differently. 6 months here is 1 day. 6 months here is 1 night. So that's 1 year. So it's 1 day and night. In the celestial realm, for Brahma, it was just a moment. Okay.
Also, is the universe created the same way every time Lord Brahma creates it? Is it the same for every Brahma, or are there differences in the structure of the universe depending on which Brahma it is?
I don't have the answer to that. I would imagine it's quite similar, but it doesn't have to be identical.
And Amara Mata was asking, is it okay to understand it in this way that Lord Brahma could not see the light before going through the tapa? Trying to relate to the situation of sadhakas. Kindly forgive me if I am speculating.
I think you're speculating. Because it doesn't say he couldn't see it because he hadn't undergone tapa. It said there was darkness in all directions. It was not subjective. There was darkness in all directions. Just factually, there was darkness in all directions. Okay, we're done. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.